Good morning. I'm Lena Owens, one of the interns for this event, A Memorial for Disease. The pandemic was a time of extreme uncertainty, of limited information, and of unpredictable trends. Experts disagreed as to the best course of action, with no precedent for dealing with a pandemic in a world connected like never before. Officials were confronted with a difficult task of creating policies to mitigate the effects of COVID. Scientists worked tirelessly on gathering more information on the disease in hopes of better understanding how to slow and stop its spread, as well as finding a cure. Healthcare professionals continually placed themselves into direct contact with the disease as they overworked themselves helping those who contracted it. Citizens, on an individual level, had to decide for themselves the best course of action to protect their physical and mental health. But while many of us were idle, stuck at home in lockdown, many at the University of Florida were not. BPI lab groups were hard at work researching different serums from Europe, testing their effectiveness and attempting to help the process of their approval. Some, like Dr. Reznikov, worked to identify the antiviral antihistamines for COVID. Others, like Dr. Bezzesi, found a way to use water waste-based epidemiology to predict COVID outbreaks, allowing officials to more effectively utilize resources to contain the disease. Aside from research, those in the College of Medicine and Diseases were hands-on in various projects to keep the campus safe. At one point, they were testing over 2,200 people a day, even setting up a drive-through testing facility in a parking garage. From research to testing to implementing CDC guidelines, this university was hard at work formulating the best response to COVID to keep students and faculty healthy. More on the university's response will be presented this afternoon session from 5 to 7:30. But the events of our lunch session are as follows. We have some insightful poetry readings from Susan Mickleberry and Edward Culls, as well as a reflective time for the invocation for the departed, where we will remember and cherish loved ones who have passed on. Additionally, we have a poster presentation from the Gainesville Regional Transit System as they explain their health policies and examine their effectiveness. Afterwards, Jenny Higgins and Cole Ardutola will perform a skit on masks. Finally, we'll end with a drum call, where we'll all come together, play drums, and just enjoy the rhythms before ending the session. Thank you all for being here, and I hope we can all gain a deeper understanding of ourselves from our reflections on one of the darkest times in recent memory.
But we have Susan McBerry. She has a master's degree in English literature from this great University of Florida. After a lengthy editorial career at this university, UF, she lives in Gainesville, teaches yoga to seniors, and participates in regional poetry reading and events, including Po Jam, meaning Poetry Jam, the longest running open mic in Florida since 1994. You guessed it right. If you're good in math again, you can try and find out how many years she's been doing that. Very good. Her poems have appeared in numerous publications, such as the Melrose Poetry Anthology, the Florida Review, Blue Moon Review, and this poetry, Volume 4, Poets of the South.
So good morning.
Good morning.
My poem today is called Pandemic, Voices from the Community. And the source of my poem is I sent a message out on Facebook, and I had 20 responses from people in the community, random people telling about their experience in the pandemic. And I tried to put that all together in this. It's 4 pages, but I'm going to just do the one poem. All right. Okay. COVID broke the dance floor. I'm in my prime cougar years, and there's no one to dance with. COVID killed the dance floor. In February 2020, my husband and I passed through Honolulu Airport on our way to Seattle. Same morning that a man with the first confirmed case passed through in the afternoon, also to Seattle. We cut short our stay to fly back to Gainesville. We didn't know if they would shut down the airports. It came on like an asteroid, quickly, deadly. Once we lived without it, then it was everywhere. My beloved Aunt Beatty in New Jersey, in her 90s, died from COVID alone in her assisted living apartment. My cousin still can't get over the horror that she was sick and died alone. Only 10 people, including the rabbi, could attend the funeral and burial. And they had to stay in separate cars, only one person at a time, and the rabbi allowed at the graveside at a time. I was not allowed to see my sweetie in memory care for a whole year. When we finally got in, she had no clue who we were. Brokenhearted, frustrated, angry. One of the first celebrities to die of COVID-19, March 2020, was Mark Bloom. When I was growing up, he and his family were our neighbors. So much fear and apprehension until mask mandates and then the vaccine. Most of those I loved were in the high-risk group. Hundreds of Gainesvillians came together to make special masks with liners, using medical materials and fabric. More than 30,000 were handmade and distributed. My sewing talent, and I use that word very casually, kicked in as I had to make some masks. I look at them now and wonder what I was thinking. It's here, I thought, poring over every news item, every news channel, obsessed. Ended my yoga teaching at the senior center. It hadn't closed yet, but I couldn't wait. It was here. Shut down, stay inside, order out groceries. Then I began to realize how weird this was. Isolation. Were we trapped? Air outside the house seemed to vibrate differently. Introverts celebrate. Extroverts cry. COVID pulled the rug out from under me. Trusted sources of information disintegrated into a fear of coming into conflict with the orange one. How to make decisions about reasonable and unreasonable risks. I felt like I was floating in darkness. As chair of the county commission, with unprecedented emergency powers, I called the state surgeon general to ask for policy guidance regarding stay-at-home orders, essential business designations, school closings, medical triage. The only advice he could offer was, wash your hands frequently. I was disgusted about forced vaccination mandates. Oh, pandemic, because of you, eager spiritual seekers entered the Zoom realm, and through this virtual reality, found new practices, new traditions in different cultures. We heard wise words from powerful teachers, shared silence, and a felt connection with the world community. Wow. I jumped into teaching yoga through something called Zoom. All went well. Back Porch Yoga was born. Students were happy to participate, ready for yoga, but for some, mostly the social connection. Suddenly, everything became Zoom. Poetry, for instance. Zoom poetry popped up everywhere, allowing invites to poets and poetry enthusiasts from around the world. Joyful. Spring 2020 came the official University of Florida directive to transition to online delivery. I had to adapt my art course to online instruction and learn how to teach and manage a class on Zoom. My learning curve was straight uphill. Studio art for non-art majors. 1 week to prepare to-go portfolios with art supplies for a month of lessons. make and distribute handouts to students scrambling to move out of town, some with nowhere to go, some without internet access. We initially thought the virus would be over in a month, remember? For me, video games. I played lots of video games at night with friends who also had nowhere to go, reconnecting and connecting with so many people this way. Vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Talked it over with all my friends. Did you get yours yet? Drove through the hospital garage with nurses giving out shots while you sat in your cars. An assembly line. It was scary because not knowing about side effects. Shared experiences on Facebook. In the time of COVID, as much time outdoors as possible, I got to know my neighbors much better. Everyone was out walking. For me, COVID meant neighbors meeting neighbors, neighbors walking the neighborhood with new babies, new pups, meeting their family members. After COVID, folks went back to work. Fewer folks walking. I miss them. COVID sent me kayaking the Gulf and the Georgia with Lakuchi with a new friend. Loved it. Ah, COVID. Weeds of Eden, my 6-piece band. Never missed a weekly rehearsal, but we played together in separate rooms, connected only by the sounds we made through wires. My friend and I ventured into the desert and lived among coyotes, the sharp cactus, foxes, and dust devils. We rarely saw anyone. This became a habit. As a new city commissioner, just turned 29, I felt the most important thing I could do was remain calm and collected while colleagues at City Hall worked to piece together life-saving policies to the best of our knowledge and ability. My wings were clipped by forced facts, my freedom taken, my family ruined. We didn't go out anymore. Restaurants closed. Many longtime favorites forever gone. My boyfriend and I drove across town from my place to his as a daily adventure. I retired February 19 with plans to travel. We did 11 of 14 trips when all screeched to a halt February 2020. I was so depressed, I went back to teleworking. For 2 years. I had teleworked for 20 years before I retired, but I just wanted things to feel normal. Fear, horror, stories out of New York, people dying too fast for coroners to cope, doctors, nurses, emergency workers dying, administrators, politicians effing things up, families no longer got to visit each other, citizens in the street rising up in armies, faces turned away in survival mode. COVID, where did you come from? China, bats, unknown animals at markets, science in mysterious labs, ethical, unethical, fearing for their lives. How completely you pulled the rug out from under us, broke our confidence, our trust, our energy. And COVID, you broke the bank. COVID, you broke the dance floor. Thank you. Voices from the community.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we have a very important poet, Edward Cowles. He's a retired social worker and a native of Gainesville. He's had his poems published in various anthologies and literary publications since 1967. If you're good in math, you can find out how many years he's been publishing. Well, we're not dating him, but we're dating the poems. He enjoys performing his poems at open mic events hosted by local poetry groups, both past and present, including University of Florida Poets, Art Speaks, Open Mic, Mellow Soul, Artist Village, Melrose Community, Poetry, and Civil Media Center. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Edward.
All right. So I have two poems to share with you this afternoon. They were written during the pandemic. The first one,
Speak up, we can't hear you at all.
okay, the first one was inspired by a spike. The pandemic recorded a spike in out-of-home cardiac arrest. And so people who experience an out-of-home cardiac arrest only survive, only 9% of those folks survive. So the title of my first poem is The 9% Survivor. In a cardiac intensive care unit, no one talks with confidence about tomorrow. Dying breath circulates in conditioned air. Machines count breaths and beats. The vascular jukebox throbs without artificial power to live through this moment. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I want to hear that song again. Consciousness awakes slowly from tranquil nothingness. Auditory awareness seeps through a drug-induced coma, like a wandering word riddle in the shape of an hourglass. Its message, someone has sneaked into a disembodied consciousness on the threshold of an open grave. The voice says, "Do you know why you're here?" I cannot answer. I don't know where here is, but there is a small, colorful bird decorated with flies, lying on the ground under a closed window that was mistaken for open sky. And vision is going darker at the edges, while angels with IVs dressed in the aurora borealis interpret sudden, catastrophic events as a perfectly normal day, reviving someone from unconsciousness or apparent death, where resuscitation becomes resurrection. Do you know why you're here? I cannot answer. I do not know where here is, and darkness is just difficult to describe. Life is the feeling of skin, touched by gloved hands, gripping flesh to guide a needle, a joyful reminder that pain is only felt by the living. Do you know why you're here? I cannot answer. I don't know where here is, but there is a child sitting on the steps of a mausoleum, crying for a mother's embrace, before she became a memory of a dead person, blowing kisses from a doorway of a forgotten childhood house. Do you know why you're here? I answer no, because I don't know where here is. Only later, when chemical waves of coma subside, uncounted time invites consciousness to enter the flesh with an apology for interrupting the bits of life dragged all the way to this unknown place. Still cautious of the danger of slipping away into a common grave shared by all of humanity. Do you know where you are? No, but now I know where here is. As the discharge paperwork confirms, an emancipating diagnosis, by luck or fate, death in the form of a cardiac arrest was temporarily eluded. Do you know why you're here? Yes, I am here to visit my mother's tomb. I saw the light that comes on at dusk to guard the steps of the mausoleum. It illuminated the writing on the stone, 91 years, 9 months, 25 days. I'm here to testify as a witness to an endless void that lies before and beyond the days of life. In a prophetic vision, I traveled to the edge of an all-encompassing void. Anything beyond the void is simply human speculation. Only the living can speak of the death of others and decide how the dead may reside in an imaginary hereafter. But the dead are forever silent. The title of my second poem is Quarantine. These windows on tedious times overlooking the world, wait to see what darkness reveals. Tonight my life lies still with no past or future, breathes in sameness with a singular awareness that all living creatures are separated from one another by only the sheerest of membranes. Gently spinning ceiling fans mark the passage of time, inviting a moment of stillness. In the quietness of my being, I can feel a spontaneous rising of gratitude, while a tolling bell echoing across a landscape of hysteria wails with the freaky, forlorn intensity of millions of faces shattered by grief. The tear-washed window of my neighbor's house reflects candlelight from the vigils of thousands of loved ones who died in isolation, while the medicine man waves his hand at unanswered questions, expressing wisdom in milligrams and painting the future with fog and perishable miracles. I open my window wide to measure the distance of my aloneness. Throbbing dance music from a seaside cafe drifts in, where Lady Liberty celebrates a culture that likes the idea of rugged individualism. Her face uncovered in defiance of good judgment, a skeleton riding on her shoulders. She will send her children back to school too soon, with colors of autumn floating on the wind that circulates invisible peril. Beyond my window, the landscape has become human. In this sundown time of day, the garden sundial casts a long shadow, marking a blank time, forcing obstinate boredom to remember a late spring frost that killed all the blooms. Thank you.
Okay. Like everyone else in the United States and the world, we started to hear about COVID in 2019. There was rumors, uncertainty. About 2020, it became real. And the way RTS and the city of Gainesville, UF, we all got together and we started on March 12th with a reduction in service. We reduced the service. We started providing free masks to all our passengers. We had a dispenser on every bus, and we provided free masks of charge, so all our passengers can wear a mask safely. We provided signs inside and outside the bus, so all our passengers, the mantra was to wear a mask. This is a time of uncertainty. Nobody had the answers, everybody can second guess, but this was the best we can do, is wear a mask. We reduced the amount of folks on the bus to a maximum of 25, so there will be space in between. On the buses, we put shields for the drivers. We also went fare free for approximately 8 months. So this way the interaction between the driver and the passenger was a minimum. Again, all this was under precautions of safety. Then what we were doing is, since we had a reduction of service, as the buses were running for approximately 4 hours, we would bring them in, disinfect them, and send another bus out to continue 4 hours. And we kept doing that all day. So every 4 hours, we were bringing the buses in. We had a reduction of service, so we had extra drivers. Those drivers were the ones that were cleaning the buses, trying to make sure that the passengers were in a safe environment, as most we can do. And that happened, again, throughout until about August of 2020. And then there was, we went back to a much more full service. But again, the masks were still required to ride the RTS bus. So we try to do our part in the community to keep our passengers as safe as possible with the knowledge we all had. Unfortunately, and I got to mention this, we did have a supervisor, Mauricio Vargas, who did pass away from COVID. Within the first, I want to say 6-7 weeks of 2020. He was so we took this very serious, very early. And we tried to protect our drivers, try to protect the passengers. Thank you so much.
Yes.
What was the biggest challenge that the virus brought on?
It was the uncertainty. Because we had somebody who did pass away, this wasn't like over there down the road. This wasn't, this hit home really quick. So we took cleaning, disinfecting very seriously. So that was, you know, we didn't have to wait for anybody else. This hit home. And we tried our best to make sure our passengers were in a safe environment. We tried to make sure that we could still take people, because there was people who worked at the hospitals, go to schools, go to just travel amongst groceries. And we were their only option, so we had to keep functioning. So that was the biggest challenge, the uncertainty of how this virus was affecting the community. Were we putting ourselves in danger? Were we putting the community in danger? That's the biggest challenge, because there was no absolute answers. We had to take every precaution that we could.
Anybody has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen any change since, since it stopped, COVID stopped?
We still
Did it change RTS in any way?
absolutely. We still provide the mask on the buses. Our passengers, obviously, in 2020, the passenger count dropped tremendously. In 2021, it's starting to pick back up. But people changed their habits. Lots of folks were afraid to get on a bus, even though we were cleaning them, and as you know, people changed their habits. But now they're starting to come back, starting to feel safe again. Lots of folks have gotten the vaccine, so that helps a lot. So that's one of the biggest changes.
What did all of this cost RTS? Was it,
Yeah.
if you were going to think of the percentage,
Yeah.
you know, like, was it 10% of your entire earnings in the year, or 20, or 40?
Well, this is where ridership numbers. We lost almost 70% of the ridership. With that comes funding. There was CARES Act. There was other funding that helped us get through the hardest part of this. The exact number I have to get with a couple folks to get you, because we had funding from different sources. What it really cost us is the public confidence in transportation for a while. That's what it really cost us. We hope we got it back. We hope we did enough. We think we have, and yes.
This is just a follow-up.
Yeah.
Now that COVID is fading away, are the funds drying up that you were receiving, or does that continue?
Well, It depends on which fund, because some of them have ended, some are still ongoing. So it just depends which funding source. And that's complicated. That's complicated.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please could you give him a round of applause? All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Do you want to go there so that the poets can come?
Yes.
Let me hold. Well, I
Beautiful. Thank you all for being here. My name is Jenny Lomnick-Higgins, and I just wanted to share some excerpts from a couple of journals. These are actually Cole's journal and my journals, kind of superimposed as COVID progressed. Saying hello is the new currency. It has to keep circulating in anticipation of congratulating ourselves of doing a good job hibernating in a time when pathogens flow like seas, making some so sick, yet playing hide and seek with the rich and all their links. Staying safe is more than gold. It's an imperative goal. From March 20th, 2020. I am afraid about how life will be when those with knowledge finally wrestle you to the ground and clip your wings. I am not sure I really want to shake hands or hug anyone from now on. I am getting used to hiding behind a screen and getting things done without human traffic. Dated April 13th, 2020. Life is now behind a screen. The streets are online, no screaming cars, no roaming cows and cowboys. All our lined up events now virtual, saving costs and saving the earth from pollution. I celebrate this new mode of production and profound period of human existence. We look forward to a future not so tense. From Cole's Journal, April 27th, 2020. Moving on to May 11th, 2020. Thou will not be corona'd if you wash your hands after touching anything. Cover your mouth when you sneeze in public. Thus says the king of stay at home, roam only the web or make friends with your bed. Do not bend the rules by day or by night. Dance to blues in your crib. Think before you drink. Link with your inner self. The rest will be just fine. And looking now at May 11th, 2020. It is true I cannot predict what will happen to how workers will be treated after the costs are calculated. Profit, the soul of business, has taken a terrible strike, and if I know these fellows well, the consumers may be at the receiving end pretty soon. At the level of social and economics of affection, I hope there will be changes. Those unnecessary wild parties and academic conferences should go through mental reset. Did the world collapse because graduations were not held elaborately this year? Did the world of scholars tumble because travel grants were unspent? A new world is needed, and collectively we must heed the tiny voices of coronavirus and make amends. I'd like to share a poem, The United States of Anxiety. We cannot tell how we arrived at Panic Stand, the flag of fear flying at full mast. Faces now masses of mess, bodies dressed in plastic left over from packaging. The once well-behaved, now erratic, everywhere has its panic button. Press it and the choir of the depressed start their song. It will not be long before we all get corona'd. We still cannot tell how we arrived at Panic Stand. We went through the fear port and got our passports stamped as our heartbeat went up a notch. On the road, our load of trepidation made us trip over when a single cough broke the silence. Anxiety of states unites us all. Dated May 17th, 2020. One of the ways in which figures of those dying from COVID-19 would make sense is if some folks is if you start to bring the figures home, like the driver who took your children to school just died. The woman at the corner who sells roses joined her ancestors. The gate man next to the Catholic Church has gone permanently and will never return to work. The beautiful, ever-smiling banker at your local bank just answered the call. The fellow who helps retrieve the trolleys at the local supermarket has left that job for joy above. Instead of the cold alternative that 2,000 people have died from COVID-19 in Florida, these are brothers, sisters, fellow workers, and human beings who served and saved us in the state. May the souls of the departed find rest. Dated May 20th, 2020. From my diary, May 23rd, 2020, quarantine, day infinity. Life in the time of COVID-19, coronavirus, kind of sucks. It's really hard. But we can do hard things, or so I'm told. I'm trying. How do you let go of the knowledge you are utterly and completely out of control? How do you release those negative energy forces? Where do you find the joy to let it back in? I'm going to keep looking. Maybe the joy is in the finding it. From Cole's diary, dated May 25th, 2020. Dear friends and casuals, at times like these when uncertainty is common currency of our humanity, a good word here and a beautiful thought there recreates our universe. Our lockdown is not like that of any place. We can do what we like and go where we want as long as we are prepared for the repercussion. No one is policing anyone, and the death toll here is on the increase. I just wanted to reach out to you all as others keep doing, and also let you know that my good wishes have not traveled as fast as I sent it. Please remain safe and sheltered. My own diary, May 29th, 2020. Quarantine continues for us, on and on. The country is, well, exactly where you'd think, going through a pandemic, police brutality, and murder. I wish this were a TV show. At least then real lives wouldn't be lost by evil actions and hateful policies. At least then we'd have a few laughs. At least then the episode would end and we'd all reset back to the beginning. It's so hard to watch everything fall apart and all you can do is care. From Cole's diary, May 30th, 2020. Since I came in contact with a dictionary, it has always been a great pleasure to know what words mean. Later in life, I found out that dictionary meanings are not enough to help me with what words mean. Let us take a word, the corona. It actually means crown, and the virus is not the first to be named such. Stay safe, stay sheltered. There are all sorts of crowns in the air. May 31st, opening the front door this morning after 48 hours of self-isolation, not from the crown of diseases, but from a lack of motivation to mask up and walk to the bus stop. The smell of fallen rain hit me and the birds beckoned their presence with a language I am yet to comprehend. If I were back in our village, the hen would have come closer, just as the white and black goats in free range without any cage would have allowed my mind to roam wild in the imagination. It was the different fragrance of nature that brought me to think of the smell of yesterday. In different cities, sweat mixed with droplets of blood, and smoke fumes rose to the crowds. Righteous anger all around. Another human being killed by a policeman with hatred in his heart. Why did the cry for help not melt in his earlobes? Even if I lived in a cave, the news and views could not have escaped me. Life for Black people has become like a thin thread that can be snapped at any time. I have come to look beyond figures of those dying to bringing them close to life. Talk about who they were and the positions they held in our lives. We will miss them all. Thank you.
For the benefit of those of you who use your cars, or those of you who stayed at home, we have a little skit for you about what happens on an RTS bus. And Jenny and I, but we need participants, we need passengers, we need a driver, right? So all the driver needs to do is to just be there and drive. We need a driver and we need passengers.
Sir, you need to put the mask on if you're going to be sitting on the bus. Hold on, let me get you a mask.
Excuse me, did you hear? He just was asking if you could please put a mask on, just for everyone's safety.
Why do I need a mask? I don't have COVID, young woman.
I appreciate that so much, and you probably don't, but really it's for everyone. It's to benefit everyone.
But what's my business with everyone?
I know, it's a really big challenge, but I promise you, It will feel really good to help the people around you. I was you once. I was at the grocery store, the person had a face shield, they had gloves, and they said, "Aren't you worried?" And you know what I said? "I'll be okay."
Driver,
I'll
just
be okay.
let's keep going.
But we're having a community. Oh,
I've got
I've got masks too.
Okay. Right.
I've even got, I've got one that could match. I've got navy blue. Do you want a blue one?
No.
We could do that. Okay. White, I've got, let's see, an N95. These are super fancy, like a duck, quack.
No, I don't want one.
Oh, this one you could even turn into a headband.
No, let me just sit somewhere else. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can have the whole seat to yourself.
Oh, I don't want the whole seat. I'd love to have a community, all of us together.
All right, all right.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, though.
Just don't be too, I don't know why. It's just a way, well.
Thank you so much for wearing that mask.
I'm not going to wear it. Okay. Can I wear it after I sneeze?
We never know. We never know what we're dealing with. So it really, sometimes it just helps to think of others.
Well, Madam Mask, is this okay?
It doesn't help anyone. I mean, maybe to like collect your facial hair.
Okay.
Because
but you said to wear a mask. I'm wearing it now. Is this okay?
Oh, it's not helpful.
Hello, is this okay?
Can anybody help?
Sir? Is this okay? I have to pull it up?
Over your nose?
But how would I breathe?
Goes right through.
How would I breathe if I cover my nose?
3 years. You're fine.
Oh, mine. This is...
Your nose and mouth, sir.
Mask
oh,
wearing
even the doggy.
See, this is how you wear a mask. The proper way to wear a mask. See the check? No. How does that look like? That looks like you right now. No.
But I'm not a dog.
No.
Okay.
But even a dog knows how to wear a mask correctly.
Is this all right by everybody now?
Yes.
Okay, let's go on. Can we go on, please?
My name is Barbara Bainan, and I'd first like to say we're really happy to be invited to be part of this project of commemorating the effects of COVID on our community. And our community, those of us who are here today, are part of a group called Journey Day Book, which is was a nonprofit educational cooperative involved in making illustrated travel journals. And we meet together to have fun, to make journal pages. We do retreats, and we had a project at the Women's Florida Reception Center down in Lowell, across from the big Lowell prison. And we did a project down there for 7 years. And these things are intertwined, which is why I'm mentioning them. Each of us in these various groups experienced loss because of the pandemic. And despite vaccinations and boosters, some of us did contract COVID, but all recovered. One of our very active members died, but not from COVID. Several of us were immunocompromised or had conditions that would have worsened the disease were we to contract it. So we had to be careful because we're all of a certain age, it seems, at this point. We don't know if any of the women we worked with in the prison died from COVID because that information was never made public. And we did this project down at the prison from August of 2013 until early March 2020, just before the lockdown, and then we had to stop. We do know that the disease was rampant among both the incarcerated women and the staff, and that many died. Those numbers were all scrubbed from the website about half a year into the pandemic. They were good data initially, but it all disappeared. So beginning in March of 2022, mid-March, after our last time with these women, we had to stop going, and all the volunteer programs at the prison stopped. And it was a great loss in our lives because we had worked with, in the 7 years, we'd worked with almost 200 women training very small groups in how to do illustrated journals. And it was a wonderful experience for all of us involved. And we have been able to keep up contact with a few of the women who have gotten out, but we don't have contact with anybody too much who's in at this point. The other thing that happened in the course of the pandemic was we really had a diminishment of our Journey Daybook cooperative nonprofit, in part because we couldn't meet as we normally did. We had board meetings on Zoom, of course, and we got together online and drew and things. And as soon as we could, we began meeting in person to make pages, outdoors and masked. And we still meet monthly to do that at various locations, you know, locally, kind of between the two coasts. And we're still interested in doing kind of a last exhibition of our things, but we are going to be disbanding the nonprofit. Just various things happen that make it time to do that for us, which is sad but necessary. Let's see, I don't want to forget something. The founder of our group, Journey Daybook, is an artist named Peggy Herrick, who lived in Cedar Key. And she has a page here that I'll talk about later. She moved to Albuquerque during the pandemic to be closer to family and to live in a larger city. And she's carrying on as a very successful artist and has good contact with us. And she would love to be here today, I can tell you that for sure. Meanwhile, back in March 2020, there was a small group, 4 of the Journey Daybookers, who went to an art workshop in South Florida and came back and said, gee, we want to get together more often and do the kinds of things we learned and see what else people are doing that they enjoy. So we started. We had one meeting before the lockdown, and we've met on Zoom ever since. And we've only met once in person since for a surprise birthday party for someone. And we do it once a week on Tuesdays. We do work at home. We just get on Zoom for 40 minutes and just show things we've been working on that week. And it's really been a lovely experience. And there's nothing we have to do. And we represent all kinds of different arts that we work on during the week. That kind of tells our story and who we are. And now I'll begin by showing some of the page I did and one other page, and then other people will take over and do that. You mentioned a title, and I forgot that. I was chairman of the board of Journey Daybook for about, 8 years, I guess. But I directed the prison project, and that was what I really, really loved doing. So I miss it. Let's see, this is my page. Done at my house here in Gainesville. And I found during the pandemic, one of the benefits of the pandemic was I really learned to love my home and to appreciate living in a beautiful place and to not be stuck in a tiny apartment in a big city with maybe a roommate I didn't like or something like that. I could be in my home with my husband. And I did a lot of pages about my home. So this is inner courtyard we have in our home, and it's just, I just enjoyed looking at it and did that page one of the Wednesday afternoons when we get together online. And Journey Daybook can incorporate collage and writing and all sorts of things. And I can tell you what I wrote here, except let's see, through my window I see lady palms, a dying peace plant, elephant ears, and windows. Now I'm reading upside down. Anyway, it just describes it. And this was day 117 of the lockdown. I didn't do a page every day, but I did quite a few. So it was nice to do the home. Then the other one I want to talk about is that Peggy Herrick did. She was the founder of Journey Daybook. And so she had sold her house in Cedar Key, moved to Gainesville intending to move 2 months later to Albuquerque, and then the lockdown started, so she didn't move till a year later. So this is Peggy in a mask that someone made for her. Is it one of your masks, Susan? No. And so day 50 of self-quarantine with isolation, alone, some loneliness, but many unexpected gifts. My new dog, Ruthie, is one, as well as several opportunities for fellowship by Zoom, live streams, and on the phone. So, Susan, would you like to go next?
Well, my name is Susan Torgerson James, and I've been a part of Journey Daybook for quite a while too. I was president for about 4 years, and until just before the pandemic began, actually. And I think one of the things that, one of the good things is that we have this community that we make art together. And that was something that really sustained us during that time. So I was very fortunate for that. But I think there are just so many things that were lost during the time. And I think one of the big things is the fact that there are people that have suffered mentally from the anxiety, the danger, the loss of loved ones, so many things. And I think some people probably don't even realize how they were affected. And that, I think, is something that's going to be going on for quite a while. So this is a page that I did. I do some fabric dyeing, and I happen to have a couple of N95 masks in my house, so that I hadn't used, so I dug those out. And so I wrote, making masks for self-protection and to protect others. And this was Wednesday, April 1st, day 18 of home retreat. And I kept writing the day number down for a while, and then I was over that because the days just were piling up so much. And in the beginning we didn't know how long it would last, and that unknowing was a hard part. So. But this is just some of the supplies. My son was with me, and he wanted to learn to sew so he could make masks for his friends. So I taught him to sew, and we were sewing masks like crazy. And then I'll show this page. This one was done by Mary Fukuyama, and this is her and her wife Jackie, and she has written, I've got the COVID-19 blues. She's a musician. It was novel in the beginning, but now my patience is thinning. I've got the COVID-19 blues. So I'm sure she could do that to music. And this is them wearing their masks. So it was a novelty to draw things like this in the beginning, and then it got old. Yes, this is Mary's partner, Jackie. And so she wrote, I dig holes in my garden and bury my troubles. So I know a lot of people worked on landscaping and gardening. Things were a big activity during that time. So Patty, do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so I live in Cedar Key, Florida, and if you have to be in a pandemic, it was a great place to be in a pandemic because it was easy to access nature. And we also I had a place to socialize with my friends where we socialized outside social distancing. And I made 2 new friends in that venue. Also for me, my daughter was living in her truck and working on an online graduate program and depended on the internet, so she kind of got stuck with us for 5 months, which was great, having her home and watching her work on this online program. She worked very hard. Anyway, mine says, this Buddha statue sits patiently in my yard, waiting for whatever comes, reminding me to do the same. The dolphins feeding in the Gulf and the flocks of white pelicans flying overhead remind me to enjoy the beauty of the moment. And so because of the pandemic, I also felt like I had more time to draw and just kind of be calm, and not that there wasn't a lot of worry and great sadness, but there were some positives also. And one of the positives for me was I had time to train on my bicycle, and I rode 70 miles on my 70th birthday, which I would have never done without a pandemic. So that's it for me. Did you need my name? Patty Jett, I guess. So. Yeah. Okay, okay. So this is by Jerry Palia, and I think it's very appropriate for her because it says, "Water flows over these hands. May I use them skillfully to preserve our precious planet." And it's that's a quote from, I don't know how to say his name, but anyway. And the reason I wanted to do this one is because she's a nurse, and I think it's very interesting that that's what she focused on, something that was important to her and to all of us at that time. So, and she was part of Journey Daybook also, as am I, and part of our Zoom practice group.
So my name is Barb Gibbs, and I did a Journey Daybook adventure in 2019, and didn't officially go through the orientation and everything, but once they started the Zoom, I was all in because I decided I wanted to start drawing and painting again. So I started doing the Zoom, and I've been pretty regular on that. Again, just like others have stated, it was a very difficult time. It was very sad. I live alone, but I had a dog at that time, and that was very helpful to me to have that. And this is actually a drawing that I did Thanksgiving 2020, my wonderful feast of turkey breast stuffing, gravy, cranberry sauce, rolls, peas and almondine, and white wine. A solitary Thanksgiving symbolizing the year of COVID, grateful for delicious food. So I was fortunate. I have a house, and I was thinking of a lot of the people that were less fortunate, and like Susan mentioned, people living together that were fighting in small spaces and that kind of thing. But I had a nice house and a comfortable place. Plus I had this group every week, which was very, very important to me. And I'm still doing it. We did it today. We had a small group, just 3 of us, but you know, people could come and go. And actually Mary she's out west right now, Mary Fukuyama and Jackie. So the one that did that and the one that did the masks, the 2 masks, that couple, they're out in Oregon right now, but they were able to join us. So that's the other benefit of having Zoom. Also, Peggy joins us quite often from Albuquerque. So, but that's mine. And then, Pamela, okay. Pamela Berry, COVID-19 pandemic, Gainesville makes against COVID-19 makers. COVID-19 pandemic, Gainesville makers against COVID-19. So she was involved with mask making for several people. Let me move this chair so I can, several groups, including at our church, and I'm sure I probably got one of those masks because I didn't have any. I was late in the mask thing, and I just I hand sewed a couple of masks with some bandanas, but then, because I don't have a sewing machine, so they were sewing, a big group of people were sewing masks for people in Gainesville. And Pamela unfortunately died in, when was it, 2021? And from something else. So this is in memoriam to her. She was a very avid Journey Daybook participant, and this is her sewing machine and her masks, and we just honor her by showing this. We all really miss her. She was a big part of the group. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about her, but
yeah. Pamela also went to the prison project very regularly and loved being there, and she was a good artist and really loved helping others learn how to improve their skills. And so it was always fun when she was there.
Yes.
What were people's roles for the prison system? What were their titles, and what else did they do?
Well, we just went in as volunteers. It's quite a to-do to get approved to go into the prison and to be able to take the things we had to take. So we were an unusual group. Most of the volunteer groups in Florida's prisons are church-related. A lot of evangelism goes on. So we and one other group were quite distinct from that. But what really distinguished us was we took in a computer and we took in all these art supplies, and it was kind of a nightmare each time because you were always anxious that you get stopped for something, or you get down there and there was a lockdown and you couldn't get in, but it was worth every struggle getting there. And we went, and 4 to 6 of us would go each time, and the groups that we worked with were 10 to 12 women. Women, many of whom, had committed very serious crimes, but I personally never felt unsafe, and I don't think any of us did. So we did an 8-week course with them once a week, as close as possible to sequentially for 8 weeks, teaching all the aspects of Journey Daybook, including collage and drawing and watercolor, just enough to be able to make a nice journal. And it was wonderful. And the women were so dedicated to doing it and so happy to be there. It was just terrific. And when they were done, then we'd have alumni groups. So we went about 20 times a year. It was a lot. Because we did the classes, but then we also did once a month groups with everybody who'd finished. So,
could you just share that, maybe just roll the mic very quickly, a minute each, about what it actually meant for you? What the role art played during that period?
Well, for me, Journey Daybook is a contemplative practice. So it's something that I do by myself, or if, with other people. I call it being by ourselves together. But we always have time at the end to share what we've done if we happen to be with other people, which we would also do at the prison. And for me, it's just being able to see something and record it is so much more fulfilling than taking a picture and thinking it will mean the same thing later. Looking at any of these pages, it just brings me back right to that moment. It's really a way of being very centered in the present and creating a memory that's there forever.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of the same feelings. It's a meditative practice, and it was very helpful during the pandemic. But it's creating a journal that is recording your feelings and the different things that are going on. And there's definitely some venting, and you can, write about, and by the time you sit and focus on making a page, it's very calming and very helpful.
So for me, similar, it was very meditative and calming, and I get lost in it. I always get lost in it, and that's just escape. It was escape a lot of times for me, and just, again, the fellowship, like you mentioned, was so important. So that was, and getting back to drawing finally after all these years, it's been many years, was really quite enriching and satisfying.
Doing art is a process, and so it does a lot for you internally, and for me, it's just enjoyable and kind of helped me get through that time and the rest of my life also. So.
Okay.
All right.